I hope that your session with your orientation leader was helpful, good for you to meet some of your peers as well as some students who are already here at HSU. And so, as promised, I'm going to put in the link in the chat, excuse me, one more time. I'm going to be dropping this link all day. We'll be here for the majority of the day, so you won't need to leave for a while. Before we introduce our speaker, our Vice President of Enrollment Management has joined us, and he's going to chat with us for just a brief couple minutes and give you a welcome here to HSU. So Vice President Merriweather, it is all yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really delighted to welcome all of our new students to orientation. Excited to see you and all of your families. And yesterday we had a great session with all the parents and families and just everyone who's been a part of your journey to get here. And I am grateful for you and don't want to take a long time. I just simply want to say thank you. You selected Humboldt State University to be the place for your education. And I really thank you and I appreciate you for it. I'm here. You're meeting people on the team who are here throughout orientation. You'll continue to connect with faculty and other leaders and lots of people who are really focused on your journey and on your experience and who are here just to make sure that you have the support you need. If you're in a learning community, if you are going to the Career Services Office, if you're an EOP or coming from an Upward Bound program or involved in a TRIO program while you're here, what's super important is that you know that you've got a community of people around you. Meet someone today, even in the virtual space that you don't know. Find a way to keep up with them, find a way to stay connected with them. When it's classes, connect with folks, especially again, try to find someone that you don't know or even reconnect with someone that you do know. I think you'll have a great experience. I also want to encourage you all to follow me on Instagram. It's a chance to connect with me. Dr. Turnbull knew that was coming. So I'm gonna I'm not seeing it. There it is. And so there's my Instagram, HSU VPEM, HSU VPEM. I encourage students to follow me. You'll always see what's happening on campus, virtually, digitally, or in person. You'll see I'm all over the place. And I definitely would love to connect with you somewhere and somehow. So there's my Instagram, HSU VPEM. And I would like to encourage followers. And the next, I'll pick about, if you follow me now on your Instagram, I will probably pick out about 10 followers, new followers, and I'll DM you. And I'll get you a new t-shirt, a Humboldt State t-shirt for following me on Instagram. So new followers at HSU, VPEM, and I'll pick out 10 folks and get you a new t-shirt and I'll follow back and DM and we'll go from, oh, wow, it is rolling. Oh, y'all folks are trying to get this t-shirt. Wow, this is awesome. Okay, well, I can tell you now, let's see, Diego Naranjo, you'll get a t-shirt. Let's see, Autumn Pekarovich, t-shirt coming your way. Let's see. Oh, you gotta love this one. Shane Dog. Oh yeah, you're in for the t-shirt. You're in for the t-shirt. Autumn Angel, you're all in. Let's see. Let's get a couple more here. Just Skidmore. You gotta love that. You are in. And let's see. Block Smasher. I'm all for that Instagram name. Block Smasher. Just followed back. Let's see who else we got. Dark Angel 0312. You're in the t-shirt business. Yo, Thorn Harris. You gotta love Thorn Harris. You're getting a t-shirt. Haley Victoria, you are in for the t-shirt. And let's do one more. Let's see. Justin March 59, you're in for the t-shirt. And wow, this is like really rolling. Yeah, the followers are coming in. And let's see. Shady Trip. Shady Trip, your avatar got you a t-shirt. This is cool. All right, make sure you follow me back if I requested you, and I'll message you. Please don't, if you didn't win a t-shirt, don't unfollow me. I know how Gen Z can do. Thank you so much for letting me talk to you. I wish you a great orientation. Enjoy connecting with our team, and enjoy Michael Lynch, who's going to bring some great stuff home. Michael Lynch is an alum. That's what it's all about. Take care.
Thank you, Vice President Merriweather. Okay, Michael, it is all yours. Take it away.
Just first make sure, can everybody hear me okay? Ebony, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
There we go. Well, thank you all for having me today. You're in college. It is your orientation. Congratulations. Despite the world, despite what's going on around you, you are here today, man. So that deserves a huge, huge, huge round of applause. Before we begin, I want to make sure I thank Dr. Ebony Turnbull and HSU leadership for allowing me to be here today to share some words, to share my story, and hopefully that I can help you to overcome some of the same obstacles, right? Other obstacles that you will face in getting to degree completion. I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of Improving Tomorrow. Improving Tomorrow is an education nonprofit here in Sacramento that helps young men of color get to and through college. We serve about 2,000 young brothers in 23 schools across Northern California. Now I'm gonna talk a little bit about that later. But first, I gotta mention, as Dr. Merriweather said, that I am a proud Humboldt State University graduate, class of 2011. And in so many ways, Humboldt changed my life. And a little bit about my journey since college, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about what I'm gonna talk about today, is after I graduated college in 2011, I went to Washington, D.C., where I served as a government relations fellow. Then I came back to Sacramento, where I'm from, and worked in the state capitol for about 6 years as a senior policy advisor to a state senator and a state assembly member. And in 2013, I co-founded Improving Tomorrow, which is now one of the largest education nonprofits serving young men of color in the country. And a little bit about what I'm going to talk about today. I really want to be able to share, with some obstacles that I faced growing up, right, in college, and share with you some strategies, right, on how you can be able to overcome, right, and get to where you want to go. And I'm going to jump right to the end of my speech, right? I'm going to share with you 3 core values in which really helped me, right, become the person I am today, that helped me overcome those challenges I faced growing up, but also in college. The first one is passion. You have to believe, you have to have a vision for your life. And you have to be able to set goals toward your vision. Because without goals, right, a dream is nothing. But passion is going to help you carry through those obstacles. The second one is empathy. Empathy in so many ways is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And I used empathy growing up, right, and throughout college to be able to graduate and be the first one in my family to get a college degree. Next one is resilience. Resilience is no matter how hard you get knocked down, you get back up. Right? So those 3 core values, empathy, passion, and resilience, are 3 of the things that I use to help me overcome my obstacles growing up, right, while in college. So what I want to be able to share with you is a little bit about who I am today, right? And how empathy and passion and resilience helped me to overcome some of my life obstacles, right? But again, to be the first person in my family to graduate college, to be able to earn a master's degree, to be able to work in the state capitol, and to be able to co-found an education nonprofit. Before I dive into that, you have to have a little bit about who I am and where I grew up. I grew up in Stockton, California. So shout out anybody from the Central Valley, but Stockton is where I grew up. And if you know anything about Stockton, you know that Stockton can sometimes be a very challenging place to grow up. And I grew up in a single parent home. My mom left really early on, and I was raised by my dad. And my dad, a little bit about my dad's story. My dad grew up in Compton, California, right, in a 2-bedroom house with 7 brothers. He was the first one in his family to be able to go to college, but didn't finish. He didn't graduate. A little bit about my mom. My mom had lots of different challenges all throughout her life. Has suffered from mental health challenges and issues, depression, suicidal thoughts, you name it, that affected me a lot when growing up. My mom didn't graduate high school, right? And today lives a very challenging life. I'm gonna kind of share with you some of those stories. And less about me, right? So I am the youngest kid of my dad. I'm the middle kid of my mom. And growing up, I had a lot of different challenges with identity. My mom is white, my dad is black. And like for a long time when I was growing up, I was trying to find who I was. And because I didn't discover who I was, or I didn't realize how important identity plays in who you become, I struggled a lot as a kid. But I want to be able to share with you, really a story about my mom. And my mom, when I was growing up, was both, verbally and physically abusive. Like in so many ways, she created a lot of challenges, right, within my life. Right, she had, and it wasn't until I was in college, I was a junior at Humboldt State in 2008, and I went back home to Stockton because I wanted to be able to have a conversation with my mom and figure out why she did what she did. Why was she verbally and physically abusive when I was a kid? So I go home one time and I'm sitting down, right, my mom, and when I walk into the house, my mom gives me a stack of papers. Right? She's like, Michael, before we talk, can you read these papers for me? I was like, sure, Mom, no problems. We sit down at the kitchen table. But as I begin to read the papers, they were papers from her psychiatrist. She had just started counseling in hopes that she could help to improve who she was. And I was reading through the papers, everything I went, all the challenges I had growing up in life began to make sense. Right? It talked about how my mom suffered from severe depression. It talked about how she had overcompulsive disorder. It talked about how she was suicidal. And the only reason why she did not kill herself was because of her kids. Now when I was 20 years old and I was reading those papers, like taking me back to when I was 6 and I was 7 and I was 8 and I was 9, and my mom was abusive, like in so many ways. So growing up as a kid, I didn't understand that. But as a 20-year-old, I had to begin to forgive. I had to begin to have empathy. So at that moment, right, I said, you know what, I'm going to forgive my mom. I'm going to be able to put myself in her shoes because of the challenges she was going through and be able to forgive. And by having empathy, by being able to forgive, that helped me to be able to grow as a man. And because I grew up in a single parent home, right, we had a lot of different economic challenges. My dad went to college but didn't graduate. So what happened was he had lots of different jobs when I was a kid, and he was trying to provide for my brother, my sister, my cousins who sometimes lived with me, my friends, for the neighbors. He was trying to provide for so many folks who just himself by himself. I remember coming home as a kid, right, having the lights cut off, our phone cut off. Sometimes we were a 2 meal a day family. But I remember one day in particular when I was coming home, I was walking, I came after school late because I was getting an F in algebra. I wanted to be able to pass my class in the 8th grade. And I'm walking home, my friends kept running to me. Like, Michael, man, where you going? I was like, hey, man, I'm going home. And they just laughed and said, no, you're not. I was like, what? So I turned the corner to my house, and on my front door, see a big red sticker that says evicted. So at that point, I was homeless. Growing up in a single parent home, right? Mom left, and when she did come back, she was verbally, right, and physically abusive, and now I had no place to go. And I was already struggling in school because all the different challenges going on in my life. But that was one of those moments where I recognized that I wanted to live a different type of life. I wanted to be able to turn my life around at 13 years old and recognize that, listen, I got to be able to do something different, or else I'm gonna live the same life that I'm living right now. Because my kids will live the same life, right, that I'm living right now. So what happened to me was, I went to high school in South Sac at Valley High School. I started to get better grades, and I got an opportunity, right, to get a football scholarship to go to Humboldt State University, right, to live my dream and playing football and going to school and working on my journey to be the first in my family to go to college. I'm gonna read you a quote real quick about the challenge, how those challenges when I was a kid prepared me for I was in college. Be grateful for all the obstacles in your life. They have strengthened you as you continue with your journey. I'm gonna say it again because the quote is so impactful. Be grateful for all the obstacles in your life. They have strengthened you as you continue with your journey. So I get to college, and before I get to college, there is a whole history of educational failures in my family. My dad went to college but didn't graduate. My older sister was a community college dropout. Some of you may recognize this pattern. My brother dropped out of college. My mom didn't graduate high school. And in my family, there was a nexus between education and incarceration. The majority of folks with my last name who were males, they spent some time in prison or jail. So I was blazing a trail that was completely new in my family. I said, I'm going to cut ties. I'm going to be able to build something different. But I was also coming from a place where there wasn't a whole lot of educational success. And on top of that, I came from a high school in South Sacramento, where although the school was 99% students of color, I was one of 5 Black males who went to a university. So there was a whole bunch of challenges I was facing on my way to becoming the first in my family to graduate college. Now, some of you all may be able to understand this pathway. Some of you are probably the first in your family to go to college. Some of you will be the first in your family to graduate college. And it's important to understand where you came from if you want to understand where you're going. So I get to college, I'm in training camp, right, playing football. My first week in college, I get a phone call about midnight that said one of my friends was shot and killed. That was one of those moments where I was sad that I had lost a friend, but I was guilty. But I felt guilty that I was away from the neighborhood. I felt guilty that I knew the same stuff was going to happen over and over again, unless something changed it. Because the neighborhoods that I came from, there were very few folks who had brown and Black skin who left on to college, let alone graduated. If they did, rarely did they come back and graduate. And that was what inspired me to create Improving Tomorrow. That was what inspired me to create an organization that's helping to serve 2,000 young men of color across 23 schools, but that's working with them from 7th grade to college graduation to make sure that they can have the same opportunity to college as everybody else. But that life-changing moment when I was 17, when I got a phone call that said one of my friends was shot and killed, I had to do 2 different things. I had to lean on my passion to wanting to be able to continue to serve and graduate. I had to have empathy, right, to be able to identify with those who were feeling lost. And I had to be resilient. I had to be able, although I had these challenges growing up, and I had these challenges when I college, I had to recognize despite how many blows I got, I was not going to give up. The second story I want to be able to share with you. So I'm a freshman in college, and for some reason, I got the brilliant idea to take an engineering class, although I was not interested in engineering, right? So I'm in this engineering class, about 250 people in this lecture hall, right? I remember just feeling lost. I remember being on a pathway where I was going to fail the class. And I didn't want to ask for help. Right? So I was the first in my family to go to college, first in my family on a pathway to graduate college. I'm coming from a community where college is not a very common thing. Right now I'm sitting in class on my freshman year after my friend just died, and I'm about to fail this engineering class. I had to lean back on those core values that I have in my life: empathy, passion, and resilience. One, to be able to ask for help. That was hard. That was hard for me, right? And it wasn't for the community around me and me being brave enough to say, listen, I am lost. I need help. Probably would have flunked that class. I probably would have been probation, and I probably would have never graduated high school, which means those 2,000 young men that are being served now through Improving Tomorrow probably would have never happened. But I had to lean back on those core values of being empathetic, of having passion, and being resilient to be able to move forward. And one of my last stories I'm gonna share with you, right, during my freshman year in college, right, where I'm living my dream, I'm playing football, I'm going to school, I'm facing some challenges along the way. Towards the end of my freshman year, I get the brilliant idea that I want to be able to move out of the dorms. I convinced my dad this is a good idea, although I didn't have any money for an apartment. I came up with a couple of dollars. I moved into an apartment. A roommate was supposed to join me. He never joined me. Needless to say, a couple months later, I didn't have enough money to pay the rent. And again, just like in 8th grade 4 years earlier, found no place to live. It was tough. You quickly find out who your friends are when you're facing a trial like this. I decided I'm going to stay with a friend for a couple of days. He was clearly annoyed about me staying on his couch. So again, I'm in my car. I'm trying to figure out a place to go. I've got $70 in my pocket. I book a motel for the night. And I'm thinking, man, I have no place to live. My pride is preventing me from calling home. What am I doing here? Can I do it? Can I be the first in my family to graduate college? I remember like yesterday, standing in that Motel 6, right? And there was a hotel Bible next to me, praying and crying. I'm like, man, I'm facing all these different challenges. Is college meant for me? Some of you all may be in that same situation a couple months here from now. Some of you are facing different type of challenge. You're living in a world, right, of COVID right now, where that is a trial in and of itself. But at 18 years old, I was facing a decision point. Was I going to give up because my friend was killed, right? I was struggling in school. Now they have a place to live. Or was I going to respond, right, and rise and be able to grow through this trial? And to, again, lean on those core values of empathy, passion, and resilience. Because I knew even though I was struggling in college, I had friends who were going to jail and losing their lives. So I had to be able to do something different. If I wasn't going to do anything different, I know the same stuff was going to happen over and over and over again. And I knew even at 13, I knew at 18, that I wanted to come back and serve my community because I was tired of seeing the same thing over and over and over again. It seemed like nothing was going to change. So I want to be able to conclude. I don't know if you all ever seen the movie Rocky before, but it's one of my favorite movies. The first Rocky, Rocky is this boxer, right? Despite how many times he gets hit, he gets back up. And he was a boxer who at first wasn't very good. And all of a sudden he gets this shot, right, to fight the world heavyweight champion, Apollo Creed. But needless to say, Rocky is getting beat up. From round 1 to round 14, Rocky is getting beat up. But no matter how many times he gets hits, he gets back up. Round 14 comes, Rocky again is getting beat. Apollo Creed just knocked him out. Bam, bam, knocked him out. All right, Rocky's down for the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rocky gets up. At that point, Rocky had been knocked down more than a dozen times. And you should see, if you ever have a moment, Google the YouTube clip, Rocky 14th round. You should see Apollo Creed's face. He's like this. He is dumbfounded. At that point, he has given up because Rocky did not quit. He was resilient. Rocky gets up in that 14th round, knocks him out. World heavyweight champ. No one ever expected it. Right, so the questions that I want to be able to phrase to you is, how many times will you get up after you get knocked down? How hard are you willing to work, right, to get to where you want to go? And most important question, how many people are you going to help along the way? Some of you may come from communities very similar like mine in Stockton and Sacramento, where the communities and neighborhoods where I lived, there wasn't a whole lot of success. So right now you're blazing a trail, you're blazing a path that's automatically different. And I encourage you to lean on those core values of passion, resilience, and empathy to be able, right, to help you get through the obstacles that you will face. Having a virtual orientation is an obstacle. Like when I was a freshman in college, our orientation was in person. You're going to be in a space where your school was shut down in March of last year. You have to start college online, but you have to have a vision for your life. And you cannot give up. And I'm gonna leave you with this. The struggles I went through as a kid, right, with economic uncertainty, right, to say the least, with the verbally and physically abusive mom, by growing up in environments where, almost everybody in my family has went to jail or prison, and me being one of only a few who hasn't. Use my story, right, as a way to be able to, right, to overcome the obstacles that you will face. But if I didn't face those obstacles, I wouldn't have a story to tell here today. I wouldn't be able to go back to my same neighbor. Hey, listen, man, if I made it, you make it, because I possess no extraordinary skill, just that I won't give up. I won't give up. And today, I serve as the co-founder and CEO of Improve Your Tomorrow. Every day I get an opportunity to serve 2,000 young brothers who are members in IYT, all across Sacramento and Stockton. And because of those life obstacles that I faced along the way, that journey along the way, I'm not able to navigate pathways, that my kids, I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, college is expected for them now. My family's life will be forever changed because I graduate college. The young brothers who I'm serving right now who will graduate college, their lives will be forever changed. So I encourage you, you all will face some obstacles. Starting virtual is your first obstacle. To lean on those core values of resilience, right? To be authentic and to be passionate. And most importantly, to be empathetic. Congratulations on being a freshman in college. That's huge. And I wish you the best of luck in your journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for that very, very engaging presentation. Really, really good. Thank you so much. Lots of thank yous in the chat I see coming in. We got about 2 or 3 minutes. And so if there are any students who wanted to ask Michael any questions, this would be an opportunity to do it. And how you can do that is to put it in the chat or use the question and answer. And we may have time for 1 or 2 questions if anybody has any. Very inspirational and an alum of HSU. So it shows potential and the type of students that HSU attracts and the legacy that you all are joining. So Michael, I can't thank you enough. I'm keeping my eye on the chat and the Q&A here. And
Dr. Merriweather, I want a shirt, Dr. Merriweather, right? I don't have an Instagram, no, but I'm going to go to Incredible so I can DM you so I can get a shirt.
he says he'll make sure you get your shirt. Okay. Well, we don't see any questions coming in. So Michael, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really do appreciate you continuing to give back at HSU. So thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give, I'm gonna give you a round of applause here on behalf of all the students here. Thanks, Michael. Okay, so before we move into the next presentation, I know we have a few students who have joined who were not present this morning, and I just want to do a very, very quick recap. We've been answering text messages, which is great, and I'm going to do a quick screen share here to show you all once again that this is the link that we've been putting in the chat. This is your schedule. It was emailed out over the last several months. We texted to you. It was in presence. And so this is where we are. This is the schedule we're following along with. And so after your Dean of Students presentation, you'll get a break for you to grab something to eat. But make sure you are using these links that are in here. And I still have this pulled up here for your presence. A couple people had message asking about completing the mandatory part 1. And so this is the site to do that. If you want to ask questions throughout the presentations, use the Q&A feature, or you can put it in the chat. It'll come directly to us. We'll either respond answering the question live, or we will answer the question typed out back text to you. So with that being said, thank you all so much. I am going to transition it over to my Associate Dean of Students, Roger Wang, so that he can begin our presentation regarding the Dean of Students office. So Roger.
Howdy y'all, let me just get set up real quick. Welcome to HSU. I am also an HSU alum. I graduated in 2011, and so it's really exciting for me to be able to really share information with our HSU students and welcome them to HSU. I know it's really exciting. Some of you might be on campus, some of you might not be on campus, and I'm sure this probably wasn't what you expected, but like Michael was sharing, just the resilience that you all have already demonstrated, but will continue to demonstrate this year. It really is going to be a valuable skill and lesson as we kind of moving forward in our world. Today I have a couple of other people, and I'll have them introduce themselves in a little bit, but we're going to talk about the Office of Dean of Students and support services here on campus. We'll talk about what they look like generally, but also virtually this semester. So if you have any questions, please put them in either the chat box or the chat, and we can answer that. Really, we're going to spend most of this time to really answer your questions. I know we've been getting some questions over text message, and for the students who are on campus, you might have questions about wearing face mask or how to get dining, all those types of things. And so we're hoping to answer a lot of those today during this session. And just briefly before we do introductions, the Office of Dean of Students, there's a couple of offices that fall under our Dean of Students office. In the immediate office is our Dean of Students, who is Ebony, and you have seen her. She's the one that's been talking this morning. And under the Dean of Students office, there's the Campus Assistance Response and Engagement Services, CARE, and you'll meet two of our coordinators and case managers today. What I do is I oversee the student rights and responsibilities, and we'll talk a little bit about some policies. You've hopefully seen some of these videos already, both about CARE and student rights and responsibilities through the asynchronous orientation. And if you haven't seen that yet, please do, because there's a lot of good information in there. We also oversee the Student Access Services, so the Student Disability Resource Center, the Testing Center, Veterans Enrollment Transition Services. So if you have any questions about that, please ask them today during this session. We oversee the entire orientation, and we work with a lot of campus partners to put this on, and we've really worked hard to do it. I know there's been some technical issues with some of the things, but we're trying to work through that today. We also have the Office of Student Life, so that includes clubs and activities, youth educational services, and the Social Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Center. And so just a couple of offices for you to get involved, whether that's fraternity or sorority life, or if you want to get involved with the hundreds of clubs we have on campus. We also have the Cultural Centers for Academic Excellence, including the African American Center, El Centro, and the Indian Tribal and Indian Education Personnel Program, ITEP. And we also oversee the UC Center and Center Arts. So again, other ways to get involved on campus, whether that's plays, artists, musicians, comedians. Again, it's going to look a little bit different this fall, but those are typically things that we will work with. And I'll have each of the Dean of Students members introduce themselves. Say unmute first.
Okay, I guess I can go first. Can you guys see me? Roger, can you see me? I'm Maddie, or Marissa. I am the assistant to the Dean of Students and also HSU and alum.
Hey y'all, I'm Rob Keever. I'm the Care Services Vice President for CARE's Campus Assistance Engagement.
I guess I can go. My name's Callie Rothrock. I work in the CARE program with Rob as the CARE case manager.
And you all met me earlier, but again, Dr. Ebony Turnbull, your Dean of Students.
All right. And normally, when we're on campus, we're located in Siemens Hall 211, which is right off the quad. I know, again, some of you are not on campus. If you are on campus, we're actually not there at the moment. We're still working virtually this fall, but you can always contact us at 707-826-3504, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and you'll usually get a hold of Madi. Or you can email us at dos@humboldt.edu. If you ever have questions, I know some of you are texting us right now, so you can continue texting us through that number, or you can email or call us. So some things we didn't go over the asynchronous orientation sessions, but something we did want to talk about. Hopefully you've seen some of these emails. For the students who are on campus this semester or have classes on campus, and if you're living in the community, we want to make sure that students are aware of the social responsibility, right? Right now we're going through a global pandemic, and while Humboldt County is pretty rural, we want to make sure that we stay safe. And we want to make sure that you all stay safe, both for our students, staff, and faculty. And so part of that is the social responsibility we all take for ourselves. And so for students, it's understanding that, and I know you've gotten a lot of messaging about this, is self-quarantine for 14 days upon initial arrival to Humboldt County. I know some of you moved in yesterday, some of you might be moving in today, some of you might have come a little bit earlier. And just knowing that you'll have to wear a face covering on campus anytime you're indoors, outdoors, or you can't maintain a 6-foot distance from others. You're not allowed to attend or any face-to-face classes without wearing a face mask. There are places on campus where you can get a face mask for free. Hopefully you came in with some. And again, if we'll put that in the chat where you can get those. That you're going to perform daily wellness self-checks before coming onto campus or leaving your residence hall. It'll stay off campus or stay in your room if you're feeling sick. If you're traveling outside of Humboldt County for any reason, you go visit friends or family or something like that, when you return, you're going to have to quarantine again for 14 days prior to returning to campus and then when you get here. I think that's it. Making sure you wash your hands. And I know, hopefully people have learned how to wash their hands during the quarantine. Hopefully you knew that before. What I like to do is pretend that you've just been cutting some jalapenos or some chilies and you're really trying to get that off. So, don't just rinse your hands. You gotta wash it. You can sing a couple songs, think the birthday song twice, say your alphabets, whatever it is. When soap and water are not available, use hand sanitizer. Again, making sure that you're socially distancing, and then that we're going to have to follow, and we are all going to follow Humboldt County Public Health related to testing and contact tracing. I know many of you got tested this yesterday. And just making sure you're monitoring your personal health and really just kind of taking care of yourself. Cleaning, hygiene is all really important during this time. Related to face mask, just going to go over really quickly, is you got to make sure not only that you have a face mask, but you're wearing it right. So I've seen this a lot when I've been walking around. Make sure you don't push your mask under your chin to rest your neck. It does nothing. Your chin is not doing anything for us. And so make sure that you have your face mask on correctly. Make sure your face mask is tight and it's not too loose and there's gaps on the side. Again, really the mask is there to protect your breath, but also when you cough and sneeze, if you have a loose mask, it's just gonna go everywhere. Make sure it covers the tip of your nose, and then make sure you don't have your nose peeking out. Again, if you're sneezing or you're breathing through your nose, that face mask really is not doing anything for us. And so make sure you're wearing your face mask correctly. Don't leave your chin exposed. It should go underneath your chin. Doesn't look very comfortable wearing it that way. And on the right is finally someone who's wearing the face mask correctly. So wear your mask as it comes all the way up, close the bridge of your nose and all the way down on your chin. Do your best to tighten the loops or ties so it's snug around the face without gaps. Along with wearing face masks, we do need a social distance. And so sometimes it can be tough to figure out, okay, what is actually 6 feet? Some people might be more distantly challenged. And so some easy tips: imagine 2 golden retrievers, tail. I love dogs, hopefully you do too. So just imagine 2 dogs, that is 6 feet, golden retrievers specifically, not chihuahuas. Average sedan width, so think of a car, 6 feet is the width of a car. A sofa, again, a pretty large sofa, that's 6 feet. And my favorite, a man in a top hat lying down, that's 6 feet. And so making sure that you are socially distanced from everybody. If you need a face mask, again, I'd be responsible, pack a couple in your backpack, keep them by your wallet, keys, doors, so you always remember them when you leave. I have a little shoe box right next to my door, and whenever I leave, I grab one. I leave one in my car. I was carrying a backpack. I would leave a couple in my backpack. If you go to the University Police Department, which is on the first floor of Student Business Services, they will have free face masks. The Jolly Giant Commons, for those who are living on campus, that's where you checked in. They'll have some on the 3rd floor. College Creek Marketplace, which is on the south side of campus, and then also the parking kiosk, lot G11. There's a little hut there, and then we'll be handing out face masks. For those who are working virtually and at home and all those types of things, you don't have to wear a face mask at home. So that's kind of the benefit. But if you're on campus, make sure that you are wearing a face mask at all times, and then also that you're socially distancing. Finally about this, and then we'll just kind of leave it up to questions. You know, you might, hopefully not too many students, but I know this has kind of come up as, you know, your rights about not wearing a face mask and everything like that. So just to make it very, very clear to everybody who's listening to this orientation, if you refuse to wear a mask in the classroom or anywhere on campus, you will be removed from the classroom for disruptive behavior. If you violate this mandate, you can be restricted from campus, removed from housing, suspended, or expelled from the CSU system. And so, you know, that's the last thing we want to do, but also we are going to be taking this very seriously. And you know, as HSU students, you have signed up to make sure that everybody is safe. And that is part of it is wearing your mask and socially distancing. That's not necessarily the first thing that we're going to do is suspend a student or restrict them from campus, but if somebody is really refusing to do that, then that is a possibility. And so just want to make sure that's clear with everybody. As part of HSU students, you have to kind of follow these policies. And if you do have issues, you know, or if you have questions about it, feel free to shoot them out right now, but just kind of want to make that clear. And then at this point, you know, we're going to open up to questions. If you have questions about any of our areas, or if you have questions about being on campus or what classes might look like virtually or anything like that, please put that in the Q&A. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there will be a little Q&A button. You can also put it in the chat and you can answer it there. I know we did have a question. Is the gym open for use? Right now it is not. They're, I think, looking at it to possibly open up a couple weeks from now if everybody's quarantined correctly and everything like that. But as of right now, it is not open. Yeah.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. I can facilitate the questions for you to answer, or if it applies to someone, give you a little breather. So there was a question that came in on if a student leaves Humboldt County for fall break, do they have to quarantine for 14 days when they return?
So yes, if you leave for fall break, if you leave for Labor Day, if you leave at any point, you just want to go home for a weekend, you will have to come back and quarantine for 14 days. And so you'll want to work with your faculty members and your professors where you have in-person classes to work around and making sure that you can still keep up with classwork, even though you won't be able to be there physically. If the in-person instruction, I think, ends at the beginning of November, I want to say it's like November 6th or something like that. And so if you do go back home for fall break, you can just stay home if you want. You don't have to come back up here. You don't have to move your things back. You know, all that stuff will be there in spring. And so you can stay home for a little bit of time. You'll finish the rest of your course virtually after that point. And so if you do go back for fall break, I would just stay home, you know, save yourself the trip. Otherwise, I mean, the benefit of coming back is you're going to be coming back, you're going to have to quarantine for 14 days and you're going to be staying in your room. And that's pretty much what you would probably be doing at home. And I know not everybody has a home or a place that is great. So, but that's just something to consider.
There's another question on communal spaces on campus. Should we not go in the living areas of dorms or restrooms without masks on?
So for Creek View Suites, those apartments I think are about I think there's only going to be 3 or 4 people. If you're the people that you're living with, you don't have to wear a mask in that area. For some of those larger residence halls where you're sharing the bathroom with, 40 other students, you're going to have to wear a mask in the hallways and those types of things. But for the people who are in apartments with like 3 or 4 people, I mean, you can walk around your space without a face mask. But if you're going outside, definitely wear a face mask. If you're going to the dining hall, wear a face mask.
For people who there's a question on, for the 14-day quarantine, what does this entail? For example, are we allowed to go on walks around campus with masks on, or are we to stay exclusively in our dorm, only leaving to get food or use the bathroom?
14-day quarantine, and I saw one about visiting. So with 14-day quarantine, both now and if you do, leave and come back, you are expected to. There's an echo somewhere. Maybe it's gone. You're expected to stay in your room. You can go out and get food and do laundry and those types of things. If you want to walk on campus, yes, please. I would encourage people to still exercise and get air and everything like that. But do limit that. Don't stay outside all day, and definitely wear a face mask. And so, part of that is just being smart and being, and also just thinking about others. Again, socially distancing from people if you're quarantined. Again, nobody's going to be at the front of your door, making sure you're locked in or anything like that. But we want to make sure that everybody's kind of taking their part to be responsible in that. If a visitor comes in, and really visitors, I believe housing has a policy that they're not allowing guests to stay overnight. And so if you have a visitor, I would encourage them to stay in a local hotel or something like that, and meeting them off campus. Really, if visitors come in from an area, you're potentially exposing yourself and others, and so I would really limit visitors as much as possible, but they should not be in the residence halls.
Correct. And I just want to echo a couple of things, as we're getting a lot of questions on essentially people asking, so about the leaving home mode, or can people come? To be as clear as we can, you are asked to stay. If you're moving on to campus, you need to stay in Humboldt County. That is the social responsibility commitment you have agreed to. And you may say, when did I agree to that? You agreed to that when you agreed to live on campus and to be enrolled in in-person classes. And so we can drop that link again for you to in the chat about the social responsibility commitment. But if you leave to go home and visit anyone outside of Humboldt County, you have to quarantine before returning for 14 days. That means you cannot go to class. It means you cannot be around other students. I believe housing is working to have food delivered to those students who have to quarantine as a pick up and go. So that is important to understand, that it is not if someone comes to visit that's not out of the county, you need to quarantine. You are exposed to someone outside of the county, you need to quarantine. And so it is best that, as Roger stated, have people stay in hotels or not come to visit or see you virtually, because that is the way that we have set up for fall repopulation, to ensure that everyone stays safe, to make sure we can keep our in-person classes open and not get shut down because we aren't following the policy on making sure we're quarantining. The last thing I'll say is in regards to being out in the community, as in Arcata and Eureka, I want to make it also clear that you should not be hosting events or parties or any sort of thing, because we received some phone calls about that over the last couple of days. So I want to stress that as well, that you should not be hosting any sort of gatherings for parties or get-togethers, even out in communities. So I know it is not ideal, but it is the expectation and what you're agreeing to from the social responsibility commitment.
We do work very closely with Arcata Police and Eureka Police and our Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. And so if we do find students hosting an off-campus party, not only can they be fined, the people who live in that house, that can cause issues for you as an HSU student. You're an HSU student no matter where you go, and if people are violating the public health or our social responsibility commitment or whatever it might be, again, that it could impact your status as a student here, and that's the last thing that we want to happen. And so we really, we have to remember we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we are trying to offer you in-person classes and an in-person experience, and to do that, we want to make sure everybody is doing their part in that. I see a question: if we leave in November, do we pay for housing for the rest of the fall semester? Yes, so you're, and I see one about, do you have to move out of the dorm? So if you leave for Thanksgiving or fall break, you don't have to move out of the dorm. And if you still have to pay for fall because you're keeping your belongings there. And so until spring, and so it's still an apartment. It would be just like if I had an apartment and left for a month to go on vacation or something like that. I'd still pay for that apartment. You know, if you have specific questions about payment or anything like that, I would direct them to housing. But you do not have to move out at the end of fall. Your belongings will be there, and it'll be there in spring, and then you can just move back in. You know, make sure you're throwing away stuff in the fridge so you don't come back to some surprises. But all your stuff should be safe.
Hey, Roger, there was a question about how can they change their move-in time?
That's a good question. I would direct you to contact housing directly, housing@humboldt.edu, just to let them know if you need to change your move-in time. I know somebody asked a question is how they're supposed to do orientation. We are recording all the sessions, so definitely listen to this session if you're part of the PBLCs, and if you're, you shouldn't be able to miss that. So just make sure you're following the summer immersion information. But if we will be recording these sessions, so you can view them at a later time.
There was oh, sorry, Roger. There was a question in the main chat on how often are students expected to get tested while here?
I don't know. I know there's a link. Madi, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I went ahead and sent Donovan that link because it does say that students have to do like self-checks on themselves. And so they had instructions, and I added that link there that says, it's right. It says, hi, Donovan, here's some information on that. So if you guys click on there, it shows you how you can self-check and how I think they gave you all thermometers. And so they're asking everybody to self-check before they go to class or before every single day.
And I believe I heard our housing or AVP for enrollment management talk about providing tests. Was it 7 or 14 days in that they're going to retest everybody? So I would definitely pay attention to your HSU email because you'll be communicated. That's our main form of communication on HSU. So hopefully you've been checking that over the summer, but continue to do that. If you're looking for thermometers, they are free. They're actually vending machines in the J. We've made all thermometers free. I think there's one in the J, and also or just contact housing and they can make sure that they provide you. Part of the self-check is, you know, thermometers, but it's also just making sure, like, do I have a cough? Am I sneezing? Do I feel, you know, do I feel like I have a fever, and those types of things. So you don't necessarily have to have a thermometer. I see one. When our COVID test results come back, I heard it should be 48 hours. That's what I heard yesterday. So they're working on making sure that's coming back to people quickly.
We have a few minutes left, and I think a lot of the questions in the chat we've answered around COVID and when to quarantine, not to quarantine. If feasible, I would like to ask Rob or Callie to give a quick brief overview of some virtual care services and opportunities that students have as a resource through our office. So that way we can reinforce what was in the training in Lumberjack.
Absolutely. So as Roger mentioned before, Care Services stands for Campus Assistance Response and Engagement. Essentially, what we are is a service to make sure that if you are having any concerns outside of your academics, because we know things come up as a student, emergencies come up, sometimes, you know, things that are out of your control impact your ability to kind of focus on your education. This is where Care Services come in. So really, we kind of have two main types of ways that we kind of support students. First, if something comes up and for whatever reason, it takes you away from your academics, whether it could be COVID related or something maybe related to a family emergency. We also know you can get sick outside of just things related to the pandemic, and you have to miss class or anything. We can work with your professors to make sure you're not gonna fail your courses because of something like this came up. or anything around them. And at the same time, we also know that sometimes when you're transitioning, especially in times like this, to a new space, a new university, that you're not always aware about the resources available to you as a student. So let's say you need help getting medical care, or if you need help kind of even like figuring out mental health services, or just accessing things for your own basic needs like food. We can help you make like kind of tailored referrals to kind of do those services if you ever need something like that. Now, sometimes you can always just contact us in the Office of the Dean of Students. We'll also have a self-referral form where you can just fill it out and someone will reach out to you. That'll be available when the semester starts. But sometimes professor may notice something and they may talk to you about it and they might refer you over to us. If that ever happens, then you might get a call or an email or something from us, just making sure that you're okay. We check in. You're never required to have to talk to us, but if you ever feel like you do need support and you do want to see ways of kind of work through whatever's happening, we're happy to kind of talk to you about that. So if you ever do get a message from us that you weren't expecting, or a call from us, don't feel like you did anything wrong or anything like that. It just means someone out there cares about you and they want to make sure that you're doing okay. And if you ever have any more questions, you can always check out our website, and there's a lot more information about our services and what we do, and even some local resources.
I think Rob covered like everything. I'll echo everything Rob said, and just normally we meet with students in our office, but during the pandemic, we're doing it all over Zoom or phone. So please feel free to reach out to us anytime if you need anything. The number that Roger presented at the beginning of the presentation for the Dean of Students office is the number you can contact us at, or the email you can use, and either Rob or myself will respond.
Okay, are there any other questions? It looks like we've cleared out most of the questions that have come in our Q&A. So if you feel like you submitted a question and it did not get answered, please resubmit it. We may have overlooked it, but a lot of them, if we answered it vocally, then we went ahead and cleared it out. This is your opportunity to make sure you get any and all information shared. You can see in the chat there's contact information as well as what Roger shared in the presentation. And so our office tends to be a catch-all for any questions that students have, and we can get students directed and support in different ways. And there's a question about if you're moving into the dorms tomorrow, how are you going to finish tomorrow's session? So it depends. You can discuss with housing your move time. Orientation is from 10 to 3 tomorrow. And so you can email us directly, but the sessions are live. And I know that the times and things were submitted out before. And so for some students, they can access on their phone. So you can download the Zoom link and watch from your phone as you're traveling, if there's reception. And then if not, there is an additional day that we may be able to help you with. So you can email us at orientation@Humboldt, or you can discuss with housing to change your time.
Dominique, can I add something really fast to that as well?
Sure.
So we did have a few students who were moving in this morning, and they wanted to join the session, but they couldn't join the morning. So they just texted us and asked us where we were, and we just let them know where we were in the process. So if tomorrow you want to join, you could just text us on that number, and we can tell you where we're at on the schedule.
And then there's a question about, are you able to eat in a dining hall? The dining is only going to be grab and go. So you will go to the dining hall to get your meal, but it is to take with you. So that is how they are planning to do dining there. How will school be helping with mental health issues that will occur because of COVID? I will let Roger or Rob answer that question.
Yeah, so our counseling and psychological services department is still open during the semester. It is going to be via Zoom or phone, and so you can call them at 707-826-3236. I'll put that in the chat. They open up on the first day of school, And then you can start calling in and utilizing their services. I think one of the sessions after, in the afternoon, we'll talk about those services. They do have an after hours mental health line too. So if you call after 5 p.m., you won't get a hold of a CAPS counselor, but you will still get a hold of a counselor. And so if it's midnight or 2 a.m. or something, you want to talk to somebody, there's still those services. Going back to dining too, I did put a link in about dining services, or I'll put that in the chat right now. I would encourage you all, if you go to the main HSU webpage, and let me share my screen real quick. If you go down to the main HSU webpage, there's a link right here that says Campus Ready website. And if you go to student guides, it's going to answer a lot of questions about dining services or athletics or classes or whatever it might be. If you haven't looked at this yet, please do. It has a lot of information about hours and those types of things.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, so with that, we are at time. So here, as we have been, we are coming up on our break. And so this is time for you to eat and grab lunch. We start back promptly at 12:05 with our next session. And so up top here, again, we will redrop this link in the chat. We've been dropping it all day. We will continue to do so. And so this is the main Zoom here at 12:05. So please be back on time so that we can start and end on time. And with that being said, if you have questions, you can also text us at this number here, 707-993-4397, and we will get those answered for you. With that, you can stay logged in if you want, or you can log out and log back in. It is your choice. But with that, we will see you in about 25 minutes. So thanks so much, everybody.